Hello all, we're back with a new episode of the Hemp Truth Lies and Legends podcast with our lovely guest Maximiliano. He is originally from Argentina, but he lives in Madrid currently, and he works for a company called Industrial Hemp Solutions, which he is running together with his brother Nikolai, and he is setting up hemp in Argentina. Very pleased to have him. Can you introduce a little bit about what you are doing currently, Max, and what you have been doing the past years with industrial hemp?
Sure, Tom. Hi, thanks for inviting me here. So, a little bit about our way, our path here with the industrial hemp. It was started like 5 years ago in Argentina. It was still illegal in Argentina, but we got all the permissions from the national institutions to start running the R&D process for this. Argentina usually used to grow hemp back in the 70s, but then we have a dictatorship and they erase from the earth all the strains that we have locally in Argentina. And so the focus was more on textiles back then. So we need to start running validation trials with around 30 different varieties from Europe, China, the States, Canada. And it took us like 3 years to understand and find the right variety, right? Always talking about industrial hemp for grain and fiber purposes, both. And at the end of the day, after trying in different ecoregions, the variety that perform best in our where around the area where we have all the facilities in Argentina, where is the corn belt of the country. It was actually a Polish variety. It was Genola and Białobrzegi. Genola for grain, Białobrzegi actually is for dual purpose, but we are not going after dual purpose crops. We understand that it's way better to focus 100% on the grain production or 100% on fiber production. So you need to pick the right strain for that. And once we identify this variety, we license from the Polish Hemp program that is within the Institute of Natural Fibers in Poznan, Poland. And we start reproducing locally, because back then, if you are a farmer and you want to import hemp seeds, it's extremely expensive and you cannot compete with traditional crops such as corn or soybean. So we need to start reproducing locally these strains. So we started back in 2023 reproducing Genola locally, and that decreased the costs a lot for the farmer. And now we can say that it's a competitive crop to the traditional ones. In Argentina, corn and soybean are pretty popular summer crops. So then we start building with my brother Nikolai, as you mentioned, he's an agronomist, and with my third partner, they develop, a program where the farmers can rotate this crop with winter crops such as oats or different crops. So we can, secure the supply with the farmers, knowing that is, of course, feasible for them economically wise. And of course, during the first seasons, we need to subsidize the farmer because when you start trialing a new crop and until the crop can adapt to the new ecoregion. I mean, we are struggling with, for example, I don't know, the size of the grain in order to process the grain. So you have several difficulties, but fortunately we can improve that, and now we are processing hemp grains for food, right? So how we get there, I mean, was of course at the very beginning with the support of our I don't know, family, friends, and fools, the triple F that invest in this kind of projects. And we got the money to achieve the first milestone. That was identify the right variety. That was Enola, and from there, in order to scale commercially, we needed another investor, with an investor, with a huge back that can support us not only with money but also with the the processing capacity, the facilities and everything, because most of people don't know this, but hemp is a pretty delicate crop where when you harvest the grain, the hemp grain, you have a really small window. And here, Tom, you can help me because you are an expert on this. You have a really small window to dry the grain, because if not, you lose all the properties that make hemp as the hemp grain as a superfood. So our business model was based on outsourcing that service of cleaning and drying. And it was madness because, actually Argentina being an agro-export country, you have a lot of cleaning facilities and drying facilities at a huge volume. But the problem is that if they have delays and they're receiving your truck and they are with delays, they will say, okay, come tomorrow again, and you will lose all the production. So for us, was extremely sensitive to have within our own company and our own partner having this kind of industrial capabilities. So at the end of the day, we were really lucky after pitching 70 different companies for a full year. We reached this holding a record that is the main organic producer in Argentina of soybean. They export the main of their production to the States. And not only having their industrial capabilities, but also the network of farmers and this development that you cannot get that in 2 or 3 years. I mean, they're working on this for 40 years now. So having a company that has such experience in the country, and knowing the profile of the Argentinian farmer that is extremely innovative and is I don't know. I think it's of course, as in any country. I mean, the farmer is your main partner, because without the farmer, I mean, there's no production. But having their experience on this and trying to adapt, how an ecosystem works, but just changing the crop and all that it means with hemp. Well, that allowed us to reach this point where we right now are exporting our production to Canada, the organic production, and then the conventional one we are processing to get the hemp ingredients such as seed oil, flour, protein powders, and roasted grain for the local market in Latin America, because there's no production at scale of industrial hemp in South America. Actually, Brazil is just legalizing now, only for R&D purposes. I mean, to start identifying the varieties. So we have a huge opportunity in Argentina to originate this magnificent crop in Argentina for the region, right? So we are focused right now in hemp foods. I mean, on the food industry. And so right now, I mean, our the fiber vertical of this crop in our business, it's on hold till we can be profitable with the hemp grain, and we can invest on that. I mean, actually, me personally, I always love more hemp fibers than hemp grain, because of course the food industry, I think, is extremely interesting, the profile of this protein and the fatty acids. But to be honest, I think that the real impact of hemp on our economy and our system right now in the world, I mean, it's with the hemp fibers. I mean, for construction, for biocomposites, I think that there's a huge impact, even way more than textiles or whatever. I think that it's in construction and biocomposites. So I already did all the path. I mean, developing the off-takers for the hemp fibers and the hemp hearts, and actually the potential investors and everything. But right now we are focused on this because it's easy to talk and say, okay, hemp fibers is this, that, but then when you are actually executing the project, and I mean, it's harder than we start selling when you are pitching and trying to harvest some capital. So we need to focus on the hemp grain, and of course we are open for partners for the fibers and everything. We already identify up waters the right varieties for the different ecoregions, and actually the off takers and everything. But settling a hemp decorticator plant for this, and I mean it's huge money. I mean, if you are aiming for the right quality of fibers, right? Because you can do something like on your own garage and creating a decortication line the same as the American or Canadian ones, that they are not good enough if you want to reach a high quality and the real players on the industry, in the construction industry, in the plastic industry. So so that's us so far. I mean, focus on hemp grain, and of course, hoping in the near future to get at the fiber vertical. But pretty happy to develop this on this in a region in South America that we think has a huge potential. You know how it works in South America about the natural resources and renewables and everything. We have a lot of potential. What of course always is missing in South America is, of course, the capital, right? I mean, we are full of ideas and everything, and we have the bioeconomy on our side, but we don't have the capital. And Europe is the other way around. I mean, there's a lot of capital. There is not. I mean, it's huge. I think prioritizing the bioeconomy and all what the Green New Deal is all about, and the horizon and all the that those approaches that Europe has. But I mean, I think that we can together. I mean, working among regions, we can of course find a lot of synergies, right?
Nice. What are your plans? What are your plans looking like from now through 2030?
To 2030, I hope on the with the hemp grains and focusing on the hemp foods and the food industry. I hope we can position it, the hemp protein and the hemp fatty acids as I don't think being mainstream and being with trying to aim more volume than with soybean, for example, protein, because you cannot get the companies to understand that hemp protein is not about the quantity of the protein if you want to compare with soybean, but yes, the quality of the protein. I mean, the different the profile of the amino acids that the hemp protein has, and the fatty acid profile and everything, but not overlapping the soybean or corn or the traditional crops, but positioning the hemp category as a superfood, so everyone can understand that, and you can go to any market and retail and know that hemp is an extremely good protein, right? Because I think that that's not happening even in the States or Canada, where you have a huge player such as Manitoba Harvest, that they work with the main retailers and with everything, and they produce a huge volume, but it's still unknown. I think the hemp food on all over the world, right? So what we are aiming to 2030, it's an awareness about the hemp food and how that impact, and it's not just selling. It's working, with chefs, with the influencer, with whatever you imagine, so people can understand and not have fear, thinking, oh, this is weird, because it's still happening, right? Even among the decision makers on the within the officials in the country, right? The same people that approve this are still questioning about this, right? I mean, that happened in the whole world. I mean, in Italy a few years ago, they went backwards about the legalization and everything. So I think that's important, because once people understand this, they have all the pressure on the officials. I mean, the officials, I mean, for them it's impossible to try to go again backwards about this. So related to food, I think I mean, 2030 is nothing. We are less than 4 years away. I mean, it's the same as the World Cup, right? Every 4 years, so it's nothing. So we have a huge work about that, and of course, I hope we can establish in Argentina, not only by us. I mean, what any investor, we can have an extremely good European decortication line and decortication plant to process and start introducing the hemp fibers of construction, especially, and biocomposites. That I think that is huge. And what I mean, I think that maybe I'm kind of, replaying a lot, and maybe you have more questions, so we'll stop here.
For me, it's a little scary to think the reality that 2030 is around the corner now. Because when I started, that would have made 2030 20 years from now. So I started in 2010, and
Phew.
so to look at how things have changed since 2010 compared to where I thought we would be by 2030, that's one of my favorite questions to ask myself. And that's what that's what I've been asking myself this whole time. Where are we going to be in 2030? Where are we going to be in 2030? Where are we going to be in 2030? And now it's only 4 years away, and not 20, 15, 10, 5. You know, it's right around the corner. It's a few seasons from now, you know?
Nothing. Yeah, yeah. It's that when you see it as an agronomist, as agriculture seasons. I mean, it's nothing. Just
Yeah.
four, less three.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since back in 2015, I mean, all the commitments for the upcoming 15 years. I mean, of course, I think that in some cases, we didn't move forward in anything. Actually, we moved like a few steps back. But I think that we need to be optimistic in terms of, for example, about hemp, where we are right now with hemp. I mean, comparing to 20 years ago, I think we are better. I mean, we move forward. I mean, usually when you and this is something I realized, that when you see in terms of acreage worldwide in terms of hemp, you think that it's a photo and it's static, that it's not growing. But when you see on the other hand the investments, on the processing facilities and everything, you see that we are moving forward. There is different investments in different countries. You have a huge projects, not projects, actually companies. For example, in Sweden, Ecolution, or where Hemflax, traditional players. They are investing more and more in facilities and processing and improving the quality. And I think that's important, because that's the key element to push, and grow the acreage globally. So I'm pretty optimistic on that side. But of course, as you mentioned, we are 3 seasons from 2030, so we need to move faster. But I think that during this, I mean, learnings from these last 2 decades, I think that maybe, I mean, we can move faster. I mean, because we now, as we said in Argentina, having the Monday's newspaper, you can actually take good decisions, right? If you know the outcome, and we know the outcome, that we are moving really slow. We need to improve. I mean, we have science on our side, right? So technology. So 20 years ago, we cannot think about artificial intelligence, and now they can, move processes extremely faster. And I don't know. I think that we have a lot of stuff to be optimistic about, and then keep working.
Yeah, I think it's quite crucial that yeah, you and your brother have done the first steps in Argentina and as well as in South America to show how it can be done and also what steps needed to be made to come at this point. And that you also have raised the starting point for other companies who might want to start in hemp in South America and Argentina to get the first test done, to get the first infrastructure built, and in that way that it can slowly build out more.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's because actually before being involved with hemp for like 15 years now, I was involved. I started being involved on sustainability, right? I started with bioplastics from corn starch and different stuff, and I realized, that people think that all people involved on sustainability are good people, and they are hippies, and they are and no, they are, most of them, they think that they are like business people, and they don't like, right, they feel that there's competition, right, there's competitors, and they don't understand that, actually within sustainability, in hemp, in whatever that you are doing, that it's circular economy, I mean, you are not sharing pieces of the pie. You are getting a bigger pie, but people don't realize that, and so people are not collaborative, right? And we don't care about that, because if we start receiving more entrepreneurs or business people that wants to start investing on hemp, I mean, for us it's a great news, because it will pave the path for us. I mean, it will be make things easier if we can increase in volume and players and everything. But it's difficult, right, to get there and find the right people, not the right people within the industry, but the right people, across different industries, the traditional industries, automotive, again, construction, textiles, whatever. And I don't know, Tom, if you realize, but I think that you did, but during all the hemp events all around the world, in the States, in Europe with AHA and whatever, there's always the same players, right, within the hemp industry, and we cannot still unblock the way to start involving companies. I mean, why the main automotive parts manufacturers are not getting involved in this kind of events? Because in Germany, all the manufacturers, they are using hemp fibers on their different parts of the car and everything. Why we don't start, like, sharing these success cases from global brands? But again, I think that we are our own enemies on this issue, because we cannot communicate to the world that hemp already has extremely success cases from global brands such as Unilever or Volvo, Mercedes, Audi, whatever, that I don't know, well-known brand that you mentioned, that they already are using this, and we cannot bring them on board, right? To start, sharing and showing to the world that, I mean, it's already a better solution. It's cheaper, it's lighter, it's less footprint. I mean, it's in some cases carbon negative. So I think we have all the elements and all the tools to move faster and improve and increase the impact of this magnificent crop. But again, we are our own enemies. But I mean, I think that we need to put together the different I don't know, the different capabilities, people from different backgrounds, from the industry, not expecting that our partners will be within the circular economy or from sustainability. I mean, no, I think that the industrial operators and industrial decision makers and huge companies, we need to be, like in Terminator, Skynet. We need to be the virus within their own bloodstream on the companies, and improve their operations, right? I mean, I think it's the way it goes. And as I envision the hemp, the hemp industry, specifically the hemp fibers, is huge companies such as, I don't know, Dow Chemical, biocomposite manufacturers, or auto parts, that they setting their own decortication line on their facility, and having a partner on the agro side that grow this crop, and make the bales and everything, the quality they need to process, and getting auto parts manufacturers, textile operators, spinning mills, whatever, have their own decortication line, and having partners on the agro side of the business, and start processing and incorporating this raw material within their own operation, right? I think that's the right future, and how I envision this in the next 10 to 20 years. Now, Michael, we can think on 2050, so we can have more time and not putting on our shoulders the pressure for 4 years from now.
Yeah, I don't want to think about 2050 yet. Not now. When I was in my 20s, thinking about 2030 wasn't a big deal, but now I don't want to think about 2050 yet.
Yeah, that's right.
But you have to set up the local value chains, and like you envision in the future, for companies who need specific parts and specific qualities to have their own decortication, to have their own processing. it is great possibility.
No, yes, huge, and I think you know Tom, the manufacturers of the decortication lines, and I spend a lot of time researching on that, and of course having meetings, meeting the manufacturers in Belgium, with Cretes, with La Roche in France, Temafa in and they are the right players, right? Because hopefully in South America we can develop our own decortication line with those standards where we can, process and get fibers where these auto parts manufacturers can use or the biocomposite producer or whatever. But actually, as I mentioned before, even in the States, you don't have this kind of machinery with the quality and the standards you need. So I think that it's also, I mean, they are you Tom know that they are pretty professional. I mean, these kind of manufacturers of these decortication lines, where they can start, of course, being involved on this, not just with the investors that wants to to investors start processing the hemp bales, but also with these huge companies, as we mentioned before, in Germany, in different countries where they can pitch them, and because I think that, in my approach, at least in South America, when I was starting looking for investors and off takers for the hemp fibers, I realized that it's way easier to find as an investor the same off taker, right? Because pushing, I I always try to manifest and create the reality, and what I was saying about envisioning these huge companies having their own decortication line. I started the approach that way. I mean, they being involved on the process and everything, understanding, and after the first decortication line, because a decortication line with a 4 ton per hour capacity, you know that the acreage that you need is more or less 2,000 hectares, right? So that's really small. I mean, so you can have a first experience and a successful one, then they can scale their own production with the right partner on the agro side of the business. But trying to aim as an investor for a facility the same of taker for those fibers, I think that it's the right call to do. But of course, I mean, it's not easy, and it takes time and everything. But after the experiences that we have globally, especially in Europe, with these manufacturers in Germany for cars, and I think that it's extremely feasible. It's possible. It's right on the corner. I mean, it's there. But well, we need to keep pushing, right? And being smart, involving the right industrial people, and I think we will achieve it. Hopefully before 2030. We have only 3 years away, so we'll see. But yeah, I think it's possible.
Yeah, and that is kind of the key of your role as well within the company, I think, being based in Europe and to match the supply with the offtake and to make sure that it's well aligned with what is needed and what is possible, yeah, in the current landscape. What is the current acreage in Argentina you are growing?
Yeah, last season we did 1,000 hectares, commercial hectares, and actually for this season we decreased a bit because we didn't have a good experience in some locations. So we are still in our learning curve, right? So this last season we just harvested 2 weeks ago. We did 500 hectares, and at the same time we did around 100 hectares for reproduction, so we can for the upcoming season we can aim to 2,000 hectares for grain purposes, right? So that's the average. Then of course there are other projects that they are running trials on different varieties, Chinese varieties and different stuff that we are expecting hopefully good results on that, because to be honest we are more focused on the industrial side of the business, not in genetics. But we were forced to be involved in genetics because there was no work on that. There was no trials in Argentina before we started and everything. So So that will be a great news for us if there's another varieties on the market. But so far, I mean, the way the only way we had to start creating this reality was being vertically integrated with the licensing the best strain for the region. And it's the way we started. But to be honest, I mean, we prefer to, in order to move faster, to be focused 100% on the industrial side and the processing. But well, we still waiting and supporting, of course, the projects that they are developing and evaluating varieties. Because of course you also have people that want to create their own strain, local strain. But of course that takes time, at least 7 to 10 years. So the best way is, to trial and secure the supply of European and American strains, because all the development, I mean, it's from Europe and North America, and it's for temperate weathers, right? That's why Argentina has a huge opportunity, because Argentina is a pretty length country, and you can find and you can reach lower latitudes similar to Europe or Canada, so you can have a good adaptation of the hemp strains that they are existing right now. I mean, and Tom and Michael, that you have really, I mean, you can count on with your hand fingers the breeders that can supply hemp seeds, right? So there are really few. So I think that right now the best way is what we are doing with the Polish varieties, reproducing locally, and hopefully in the near future you can start doing that also with French varieties, and with the strains that they have the infrastructure to keep the supply and not not facing shortage and everything that happened the last couple of years and last couple of seasons. So it's where we need to improve, I think, on the seed supply, so you can of course keep this market at a growing pace, right?
I've been talking about the seed supply for going on 10 years now. I remember I was visiting Michigan, and I was at a store buying fertilizer for a different project, and the guy at the cash register was like, "Oh yeah, I want to get into the hemp industry. I want to start growing for CBD." And this was before the crash, Um, a year or two prior, CBD isolate was 35,000 euros a kilogram, and now it's hundreds of euros a kilogram, if that. And I was like, listen, I was like, there's definitely a bubble in the CBD market right now, but you should just look at breeding. Like the number one bottleneck for this entire industry right now is seed supply, 100%. Like what? Because Tom and I were talking about this before we started recording. Every year there's always some problem. Every year there was a flood. Every year there was hail. Every year there was some other act of God that destroyed hundreds or thousands of hectares of seed, for sowing. And I think the best thing we can do right now is everybody needs to put in a robust breeding program just for seed supply. Because right now, because it's the bottleneck, that's the first part in the vertical that starts to increase cost. If everybody wants seed and there's not enough of it, then of course it's going to be 50 cents a kilo, $1 a kilo, however much a kilo more than it normally would. So I'm glad that you guys were able to talk to the institute in Poznan. I'm in Poland, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Okay, where in Warsaw? Which
I'm in
city?
Warsaw. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're all prepping for the AHIA meeting
Conference in
coming up.
June.
Yeah, in June. But yeah, I'm happy to see that it's in Poland this year. But yeah, it's good that you guys are licensing with the institute here in
Yeah, you
Poznan.
should. Tom should introduce you to Vital Chechak. I mean,
I know
the
him
head of
very
the.
well.
Ah, you know him. Okay, okay,
I've known
great.
him since he started working there.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, and it's the supply, and of course we need to release a bit the pressure on hemp and the breeders and everything, because if you compare hemp with any traditional crop, corn or soybean, I mean, they have decades of R&D and development and stabilizing the strains and everything. Hemp is pretty new on that, right? I mean, it was banned for 100 years. I mean, the last 3 or 4 generations it was banned. So I mean, has a lot of pressure. It needs to improve, of course. It's pretty new crop. I mean, since it's being allowed in different markets. So of course, I think that's the weakest part of our industry, right? I mean, the supply and the quality and the stability and everything. But well, luckily there's a lot of companies investing on that, right? In the States, in Canada, and different countries. We tried different new varieties, awesome and amazing varieties. But we know that even if they are performing extremely well, there's no way they can supply right at the pace that we need. So I mean, it's part of that, right? I mean, but it's not only the bottleneck, the seed supply. Also, again, the investment, as we mentioned before, and the right people. Not selling or yes, I mean maybe the right people selling the hemp impact and how it goes, how it works within the different value chains. And I think that we need more. When I mentioned before, I mean that we need people from the traditional industries, construction and different stuff. It's because we need people because hemp is full of dreamers, and usually people that I started like that. I mean, being a dreamer, but then I started being involved and understanding and getting more technical, and asking questions to people, sometimes exposing myself of being the guy that doesn't know anything, but in order to start learning. And I think that's it's an obligation for us. I mean, if we want to be the ones that are pushing for this industry and everything, you have to, I mean, it's a must to be to be trained and has the at least the knowledge to sit on the grown ups table, right?
Yeah.
It's important. I mean, it's the only way, because if not, you're again, okay, this is cannabis. I mean, this is like these guys are smokers. They love joint, and they're good people, nice to talk with, but that's it. And no, I mean, we are business people, and thinking that we can improve. I think in an enormous way the value chains that are running the world right now. We can improve it, and they can take all the credit and the pieces and everything. But I mean, so it's in our hands to achieve this.
Yeah, the knowledge, like the fracturing of knowledge is everywhere though, like I was talking to people in France, and France is arguably, outside of China, the most well-developed producer of linen and hemp in general, and knowledge is fractured there too, for multitudes of reasons. People hoard knowledge. They think of that as their competitive advantage. They don't want to see more competition on the market, so they're not sharing their best practices in some form or another. And here we are.
Yeah, that's short-sighted, because it will be actually positive to them, right? If there are more players, and we can, because they will be able to scale faster and sell more. I mean, but yeah, people are short-sighted on that aspect. And not only with him, right? In general, with sustainability. So as I mentioned before, I think we are our own main enemies, because we don't accept collaboration and find synergies with the traditional industries.
Sure.
But I think that people are realizing that, and hopefully we can improve the rhythm that we are moving forward with these kind of solutions.
Nice. What are the main challenges that you're having right now, like governmentally in Argentina?
Well,
Because I
luckily,
know the ignorance of politicians for sure.
no. Well, luckily, it was again, as I mentioned, this concept of with Monday's newspaper. I mean, in Argentina, knowing what everything that happened in Europe, in the States, and everything, was not easier, but at least they can see the results of the related to different decisions and everything. So luckily, the officials, the authorities, they realized that was happening in the rest of the world. So they, for example, they start regulating industrial hemp, and they put CBD and all the cannabinoids on hold, and they are releasing the regulation on three stages. The first one was industrial hemp for grain and fibers. We work a lot, together with the officials. I mean, showing the all the technical information, all what it implies for an agro producer, how to get the permissions, how to export, and everything. So working on that kind of paperwork in order not to, usually when you start receiving the regulations and everything, then there's some step that they missed and it's all blocked and you cannot export because custom don't know about the tariffs or whatever. So there was a great work that the authorities did for grain and fibers. And that's done. That was the first step. Now they are on stage two, and they are regulating CBD. Actually, they are receiving some councils and institutions from Europe, the States, and everything to learn about the experiences, especially after what happened with the ban in the States. And the third stage, that I think it won't be for this year, will be for the future, it's THC. So all related to industrial hemp is already approved and operative in the country.
Yeah, I've been talking to a couple of people. This has just sort of been a new conversation we've been having recently that so in the States in particular, and it's happened here in Poland too, this whole idea of hot hemp, right? So you have hemp that exceeds the THC cap of what the law allows, and anybody who knows anything about even if it's a certified industrial variety, Hanola, for example, at one point during the growth phase, it might exceed, or a certain percentage of the field might exceed and the rest doesn't. And so I would like to see more common sense things where, so for example, like if you're growing for fiber, the density, the amount of kilograms of seed per hectare that you sow is way higher than if it's for oil or other things. So, if you're growing for fiber and each plant is just a few centimeters from each other, you're not really going to have much good flour or anything, especially because generally speaking, you cut it and kill it before it really even goes to seed, and so I would like to see some different ways of giving exceptions to industrial hemp, like how many plants there are per meter, etc. You're not going to get good bud from hemp that's 2-3 meters tall.
No, exactly, and luckily, not only in Argentina but in South America in general, the threshold is 1% of THC. So I think that make completely sense, especially in order not to reject investors that you are pretty close in Europe with this point 0.2 or point 0.3 in the States. I think it's the right call, to put that threshold because it's. I mean, people who smoke weeds, people usually know that in order to get for that for recreational, I mean it's 15%, 20%. I mean, so we have a huge gap. So actually, you can put the threshold on 2%, 3%. I think South Africa is aiming for the 2%, right? I'm not sure. But in South America in general is 1%, except in Paraguay that is 0.5. But I think that's the right goal. And then for example, I don't know, EIJA was having different proposals in order to decrease the cost of the auditing the fields and everything with drones because the regulators understand that when you see a industrial hemp field, you realize that it's not for cannabinoids. I mean, you can tell the difference among cannabinoids production or grain or fiber. So just with drones and watching the images, I mean, that's enough. I mean, you don't need even to take samples from the field. But I mean, in Argentina, actually, they take sample after you harvest. I mean, they don't need to control with the standing crop. I mean, they realize with the images and everything. So actually, I think they are pretty pragmatic on that sense, and I think that's important. I think that European regulators needs to follow these kind of decisions because I think that we made it, and not we. I mean, we as a country, but the regulators made it. Because of what they learned from the mistakes in Europe and in the States, so that's great, and I think that we should go and follow that kind of decisions because that helps and strengthens the industry, right?
I agree.
And what is the status of hemp in the other countries in South America and Middle America?
Sorry, Tom.
What is the status of hemp in other countries in South America and Middle America? You mentioned Brazil, who is just
Yeah,
starting with the program, but
yeah. I mean, when we started, we started doing the trials in not only in Argentina but Uruguay and Paraguay because in Uruguay it was legal, in Argentina it wasn't yet legal, and then in Paraguay it was legal as well. But I mean, to be honest, Uruguay is one of the first. I think it was the first country in the world, right, back in 2013, something like that, to legalize cannabis. But they they made the wrong decisions, I think, because there wasn't standards in there. So you have huge investments with a really good quality of cannabinoids and everything, but they didn't control. So people start preparing on their own garages and everything. So there's no standards, and the price, there is a clusterfuck among the prices and everything. So they kind of killed the industry, not on purpose, but they did it. And they never put the focus on hemp, right? So actually we move all the focus that we had in Uruguay back then. We moved everything to Argentina, and we are keeping in the operation in Paraguay because Paraguay has a lot of potential in terms of the taxes that you have and everything, right? You have a lot of incentives. For example, if you're a foreign company and you invest in Paraguay, you get into this maquila regime where, since you are giving labor for local citizens, all your taxes decrease to just 1%. So you have a lot of Brazilian companies that are sharing borders with Paraguay, that they move and start producing in Paraguay and then export to Brazil for a taxation of just 1%. So that's amazing, and that makes a lot of sense if you want to start industrializing, for example, the hemp fiber. It makes sense there. But then you have a more like a tropical and subtropical weather, so you have another challenges with the stability of the strains, right? So that's why we are working on that also with the Polish hemp program to stabilize for their strains from subtropical and tropical weather. So that's a plan that takes time. But there's no real production in Paraguay nor in Uruguay. In South America, to be honest, there's no production at scale. It's not because I'm trying to defend my project that we are the only ones, but to be honest, we were lucky enough to have our partner with this experience of 4 years developing, traditional crops and specialties, not only commodities. So that helped us a lot. If we want to scale, we don't have any kind of roof for that. I mean, the roof that we have is the demand on the market and the off takers, and this job that we have to position a hemp as a superfood, right? So we have not only a challenge as a company to be profitable, but also to position this crop. So it takes a lot of work and time. And the rest of Latin America, they don't have production either because you go most of the countries in South America, they are near the equator, right? So to forecast a yield on the field and making this profitable for the farmer, and not them going back to the traditional crop that they were doing before. I mean, it's difficult, and at least if you do a serious job, I mean, when you are starting with this new crop, we cannot do a farmer that has 200 hectares. Okay, let's do 200 hectares of hemp. No, you start with a small lot of 20 hectares. I mean, the minimum where you can have the the company that gives you the service of harvesting or so on or whatever. I mean, the minimum that they demand from you, 10 hectares, 20 hectares, you start from there, so the farmer can start learning and not putting all the eggs on the same basket, right? I mean, it's you need to try to to go with them, and of course take care of the risk and everything. And most of people don't do that. I mean, they want to make easy money immediately. They don't think on the long run. So that's why in South America in general, there's no hemp production at scale. Peru, a few years ago, they legalized, they regulate this, but there's still not acreages in there. And Brazil just legalized that. I mean, and all the expectation and the focus is on Brazil because it's the largest market by far in South America and one of the largest at the global scale. So that will be really interesting. But again, I mean, they have a huge challenge ahead, to stabilize varieties on a tropical weather, right? So it will take time. But the situation right now in South America is that, I mean, I think that the focus for the origination is Argentina. And then you have another markets, countries like Chile, but they don't have they're developing local strains, but still they are not commercially available, right? So that's the situation.
Okay, interesting.
But it's a lot of opportunities for technologies like yours, Tom, for trying. And yeah, and you should. I mean, I'm not familiar with the cannabinoids, but since they are about to legalize CBD and regulate CBD across this year, you should put the focus in there and start talking, with the local players. There is a lot, and actually there was a lot of investment on CBD, and then was an extremely bad news when they put that on hold. But I think it's the main focus for the agency in Argentina for this year. So I think people involved with cannabinoids, they will have a great news this year.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed a bit of an uptick in that as well, demand from CBD companies who want to do drying. Only the change in legislation in the US also had an impact on that. Yeah, for myself, I'm also very interested in, of course, developments in Brazil and also Argentina in terms of the genetics development, because that is just key for the industry, and we have yeah, great experience in that. But do you
Yeah.
notice, yeah, have you already had inquiries from Brazil to also share knowledge with the process you have, yeah, you and your brother have been through? Because yeah, what I hear, you have set up the business from zero to where you are now. So you have kind of guidebook from yourself, what you've learned from it, what were the good things, what were the bad things, and how you have come to this point. Yeah, is there interest from Brazil or other countries to also
Yeah.
live the experience?
Yeah, actually, together with Vitol and with the Polish Hemp program, there is a huge consortium they are trying to build from the academia, right? From the universities in Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, and to create like a bioeconomy hub on northern Argentina, what is the triple frontier that is well known, that part, where you have the Iguazu Falls and everything. But again, it's something. I mean, of course, I'm used to being involved on R&D projects and different stuff, but especially when it involves the academia and all different players, these kind of consortiums, they take a lot of time, right? It's a project for the long run, but it makes sense, right? Because you need to start preparing for a local strain, especially for a subtropical weather. So there we are involved on those kind of projects, but it's nothing like industrial for the short run, right? For immediate implementation, that doesn't exist yet for Brazil. But yeah, I mean, most of the companies are focused on R&D and running trials, and of course, the ones that ask for support, we are open for collaboration. But there's no industrial projects for the at least for the next few years. They won't be, because there's no chance of origination locally, right? I think it will be a market for import hemp foods, hemp ingredients, cottonized fiber for the textile industry. Brazil has huge spinning mills and different maybe fiber derivatives with some add value, but for local production, it will take time.
Yeah, and also somebody to step up like you did in Argentina to to build it up from the beginning and to take it in their own hands.
Yeah, I mean it's the same as being an entrepreneur. I mean it's not for everybody. I mean we are running this hemp business for 5 years now, and we are just about to get our first invoices now after 5 years. So it's no easy. We have a lot of pressure from our partners, and usually, I mean, in any industry, I mean, there's no company that will invest on you for 5 years of R&D, right? So it's no easy. It's not easy, but now I think it's for him now it's easier because there's more knowledge and everything, especially for a new country and a new region where I mean your raw material is a crop. You need to understand if it works and if it adapts to your eco region. It takes time, right? In the agro business, they know that these things take time, but yeah, I mean it's difficult, and hopefully there is a group in Brazil that has this kind of approach, because it will be better for everyone, right? It will be easier to bring down those walls of the largest of takers of raw materials, and if we are more people operating and processing and everything, it will be easier. So hopefully there's people that want to do this in the rest of South America and the rest of the world, of course.
I was also interested about the variety test you did in Argentina. What traits made the seeds that you eventually chose the ones who were best fit for your region?
Well, usually when I learned this, I didn't know anything about this, but my partners are agronomists, so I learned a lot. So you start with the micro plots, right, of 10 square meters when you start different repetitions, right? Different sowing dates, different spacing rows, different different conditions, so you can understand which are the optimal conditions for the different varieties. So we run trials with more or less 30 different varieties in different campaigns. So we did the first year we did around 5,000 microplots of comparing different strains in different ecoregions with these repetitions that I mentioned. So it was a lot in 3 different countries, in Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. So it was a lot. I mean, it was a huge investment. I mean, the first investment that we did for this milestone that we needed, that was identifying the right variety, was more or less $1 million. It was a lot of money, and our investors weren't that happy, but they understood at the end of the day that was the first thing that we need to achieve, because if not, I mean, there's no industry. I mean, if you will have a crop that it's performing 300 kilos per hectare, it's not profitable for the farmer. They will keep doing soybean, and that's it. I mean, you don't have any origination. So it was a really tough work to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, we identify this cenola and Bielorussia as well for fiber. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy, and again, I mean, we try with varieties that we already knew that maybe the supply of this breeder wasn't at the it wasn't um, at the I mean they won't be able to supply and give you and help you to increase the acreage. And unfortunately, the one that performed best was from the Polish hemp program. That is one of the few breeders globally that can supply, right? That they have the supply chain for this, and they're pretty serious. I mean, the technical team they have and the support they give you, I mean, it's extremely important. So you don't have much vendors like that. I mean, you have just one in France, and that's it. And in China, I mean, we of course China for fibers are they're extremely good because they can stand and they can support even the heat during summer. I mean, they're amazing, but they're not stable. I mean, 1 year you receive a batch from zero germinative power, then a batch of 20 of percent of germinative power, and you cannot rely, right, your business and an industry with an unreliable vendor. So you need an extremely good breeder. And of course, then developing the right partners among not just you, but the breeder with local partners, help them to stabilize faster the variety and maybe develop a new strain. But yeah, I mean, those are things that takes a lot of time. And you guys, the both of you are lucky because you are in countries where they have a really good strains in Poland and in the Netherlands. I mean, I think that well, different groups there, not hemp flax per se, but I think Sensi seeds or no, they have a bunch of strains, so you are covered on that. But imagine that you're a country where I mean you have different weather conditions, and you need to start from the scratch and from my -10, I would say, because it takes like 10 years to stabilize and get a proper strain, right? So yeah, those are maybe I think the main challenges as we discussed earlier.
Mm. Yeah, so the amount of biomass it is yeah, brought up by the plants, how consistent that is over the year, and also the consistency of supply as well as the germination rate. Those are the key variables
Yeah.
to yeah, and that is what you need to build a business on, with the security into the future.
No, exactly. And if you imagine that you pitch and you approach a huge player such as I don't know Unilever for food or for cosmetics or Volkswagen for fibers, and then you say no, this year they have a drought in Europe, so I don't have a fibers, so I can. You fucked up all the work that you did for the last 5 years, 10 years. So it's huge. And it's pretty sensitive what we are talking about the supply chain and the whole industry. So that's why it's important to be serious, not over promise. That a lot of people are over promising stuff such as yeah, it's carbon negative or whatever, and nobody is doing a proper traceability, a job and using the proper tools and everything. So it's important to be extremely cautious, because if you start over promising, then it happened to me that people asking me like expecting from hemp extraordinary stuff like such as that. I mean, how much carbon dioxide is sequestered? No, but this, and we presented information and say no, it's not enough. But because they were with higher expectations, because somebody tried to
Mm.
oversell, hemp capabilities. So that's why it's extremely important to be cautious, be realistic, and and of course it's not the perfect crop hemp, but it's the best solution that we have comparing with the traditional ones, right? But you cannot overpromise stuff because you are shooting on your foot with that. It's dumb to do that, but a lot of people do that.
That's a little bit how this podcast got started. Once upon a time, Tom and I were sitting around a table with a bunch of hemp professionals, and we were basically debating talking points, and every single one of us had a different point of view on something. Some of us were, based on memes. Some of us were based on academic research. Some of us were based on, individual experience within the industry. And that's kind of how this got started. So
No, yeah, I think it's important. It's important, and and keep doing this. I mean, having this kind of conversations, forums. It's important because yeah, I mean, it's our responsibility again. If we are pushing for this crop, it's our responsibility to not to fuck up, right, with this our promises and everything, because at the end of the day, you all the work that you did and the steps that you move forward. I mean, it's extremely fragile. You know how difficult it is to build something and how easy it is to, right? The destruction always is faster and easy. So yeah, I mean, we need to take care of ourselves and collaborate and make this industry and this crop stronger, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, build it upon trust and build it upon truth.
So are you guys attending to the EHA conference in Poznan in June?
Yeah, I'll be meeting with a couple of people there for sure. Yeah, a friend of mine who I want to introduce you to. He's working on some breeding in general. I think
Okay.
you'd be excited to see. I mean, you in general are one of the most serious field tests that I've ever heard of. So
Well, I remember when Raquel Invernizzi, she's involved in hemp for a long time now. She's from Italy. She came to visit our fields as a consultant, and she introduced me Christophe Lefebvre. He was the former CEO of Hemp in France. And when she told him that we expend that kind of money in R&D and trials, he said no, that can be possible. And she said no, I visited that and it was true, and the guy couldn't believe it. I mean, I don't know if we were extremely responsible, like expending that much money,
yeah,
but we needed to make it in 1 or 2 seasons, what it takes usually like 5 to 10, to understand that if it's feasible, right? And well, the whole risk was in our investors,
yeah,
and luckily, I mean, we at least we achieved this. I mean, licensing and getting this variety and starting all the value chain. But yeah, I mean, it took a lot, and it's all on my brother's shoulder and Juani, my other partner, that they took that lead, and it was a huge work, and involving a lot of, both from the public and private sector, the authorities, the National Institute for the agriculture technology, and then private companies for the team, right? Because it's not that we had like 200 employees. Now we were outsourcing that service for companies that are attending the field, taking the information, taking the data and everything. And it was a lot. It was like 15 locations at the same time with a lot of microplots, and yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
yeah. You might. This is just me thinking outside of the box because that's what I do for a living. But you could just even in a small way. Um, I don't want to say license your we'll call it a discovery program, but you can
Hmm.
consult with many other countries. Like I'm all for one reason or another, I'm always getting different countries from across Africa saying we really want to do hemp. Hemp sounds great, and I'm thinking to myself generally, you're really close to the equator. You should probably do canaf, because I'm at the end of the day, for me, I'm more into sustainability and good sources of cellulose and things like that, and hemp is just one of those, one of the best fibers of many. And so yeah, the I'm sure there's a way looking back that you could have, streamlined the program to go just as fast and maybe spend a percentage of the amount of money doing it. Who knows? But yeah, you could definitely find work in other countries evaluating a hemp program there.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, that program that we developed for this crop is the reason why our partner invest on us. Our majority shareholder was because of that, because of the program, because they have programs for another specialties, right? and that was the main reason. And of course, I mean, we can collaborate on that, and actually, it's the main job, I think, for the Polish Hemp program, right? And the breeders. I mean, they work with a lot of partners all over the globe. But yeah, and they're struggling, of course, because the conditions sometimes the latitude is the same, but then the soil quality is different and the weather conditions are different. So yeah, it's a lot of different variables that you need to take into account. But yeah, to be honest, right now for us, our focus it's on the industrial processing and the off takers and getting to the market, because it's it must be, people need to see examples and understand, people needs to see granolas with hemp seeds, cereal bars, protein, and whatever, so they can understand that you can finally position this new category, right? That's important, because all that we are discussing about the R&D and the field and nobody knows that, nobody are into that. I mean, people, the common consumer, I mean, they don't understand about that, and they don't care about that. I mean, they care about the product that they receive. So I think that's it's a shame, but it's like that. People see the end results and not the process to get there. So yeah, it's where we need to put the focus right now, so we can have people and consumers on our side, right?
Right. I'll ask a technical question. If you can't answer off the top of your head or based on whatever's in front of you, it's fine. But I assume you guys were really paying attention to the different soil types. So for all of the dozens of, well, whatever, many hundreds of microplots that you guys did, so like obviously, so in agronomy in general, in agriculture in general, we're always paying attention to the percentage of sand, silt, and clay in the soil where we're sowing, not only the amount of micronutrients available and the pH of the soil, but was there anything in particular maybe that stood out as far as the success of yield when it came to let's say the loam percentages of sand versus silt versus clay versus the pH?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I think that I'm not qualified to answer a technical question like that, because I'm not the agronomist. But as far as what I saw, it's of course I don't remember which the perfect balance among sand and clay, but I think it's more like a clay soil that works better. But actually, what we identify that it's the the, the most powerful variable for this kind of varieties, especially for European varieties. It's that they're induced by the heat and not for the sun hours, the light that they receive. So that's why we need that. There was a huge learn that where all is our cornbed that I mentioned, that it's near latitude 34, where all our facilities are and everything. The plants start flowering extremely early, like in a month, and they start like flowering with 40 centimeters tall, 50 centimeters tall, like really low plant. So the yields were really poor. And my takeaway on that, I mean, was like moving for southern locations, and now we are planting near the latitude 40, where because Argentina is pretty length. I don't know if you have the Argentina in a map, but it's pretty
I know
length.
it seems to me like it's almost as long as South America itself.
Exactly, yeah, half at least South America.
Very skinny.
But yeah, I mean,
Relatively
yeah, and if you want to emulate, I don't know, Polish latitudes, you need to go to the southest part, that is Tierra del Fuego, that is the southest point of the world. But that's a desert in there. I mean, there's no industrial capabilities on that area, so you cannot go in there. Probably you will have a better yields and everything, but I mean it makes no sense, because logistics will eat you alive. So you need to understand which is the best point, and what we are doing right now is there. So we identify that. I mean, more than the solidity, the soil quality that is important, as you mentioned, but unfortunately I don't remember. I mean, what's the balance and what's the percentages of nitrogen and the rest of the. So, but what we understand was that, I mean, that like the latitude, respecting the latitude of where from the original home of the varieties, it has a huge impact on the variety, because it adapts better. But then, yeah, I remember that we have a really bad experiences with sandy soils, where the plant wasn't really tied to the soil, and with some winds they break down. So yeah, I mean, it's of course there is a huge learning on that, and my brother and Juanita, they knows better than me about that. But yeah, I mean, it's I think that the soil quality is extremely important. But I don't know, I'm not an agronomist, but I don't know if the latitude and and the in general, I mean, the weather condition, it's more important even than the soil, right? But and another learning that we had is that when I started with this project and understanding about hemp, we thought that everybody's selling hemp for marginal lands and it grows whatever in any kind of soil. No, hemp likes an extremely good soil. Hemp likes a good soil. Hemp likes the soil where they grow potato. I mean, and potato demands the best soils ever. So yeah, hemp likes really good soil. So don't expect a salvation with this crop for marginal land, because I think that you will have a really bad surprise.
Yeah, I think So the institute in Poznan, I would say, knows a lot about, let's say, marginal land restoration, and for sure, it's like, we have this marginal land, it's damaged. We're going to. This is my takeaway from it. We're going to sow hemp, and we're going to let hemp repair the land, but it's not something that you're going to get your money back from. Like, you're not going to get a yield from it. You're not going to you know what I mean? Like, it's there to repair the land, and that's its only job. It's not its job to. It's like, it's definitely investing back into the land to repair it. You're not going to get your money back.
No, but I think that that makes sense from another point of view. If you see it as a company, a private investor that wants to put the crop in there, because maybe you rent cheaper the field or whatever. I mean, that's not the idea. I think that it's something that it's, I think, a program from the state that they need to recover those lands. Or if you are a mining company, and then you have some kind of pressure on on improving your impact on your area of influence. And for example, what the Polish hemp program did with Białobrzegi, this variety, they have some studies where they can recover fields where there were mining exploitation, right? So they can extract the heavy metals and different stuff, and in that sense makes sense, right? But just for that, I mean, if you are thinking on profitability for selling but then I don't know, because it depends on the land. If you have a good biomass per hectare, of course you can sell that biomass. Then you can sell the bales, but yeah, it depends. But itself is not a business, of course. You need to involve the right players for that, being a mining company, being the state, being the province. It depends on that, on who are the players, and what's the purpose of that project, right?
Right, indeed.
Hmm.
I think, if we have no further questions, we can start wrapping it up.
Sure. Is there anything we didn't talk about today that you definitely wanted to touch on?
No, I think we explored everything. Of course, there must be more topics, but no, nothing that came to my mind right now. But yeah, I think that it's. I mean, we can keep talking for hours and like the whole night about this. But yeah, I think it's important what you are doing, guys, and showing to and sharing with people about what this crop does. And it has like I mean, hemp is extremely versatile crop, and you can. I mean, I don't see any other raw material that you can enter in so many industries, and so it's complex at the same time, and that's it's I think that hemp is magnificent, but at the same time it has a cost that it's extremely complicated to share and for people to understand about this. But well, again, it's our challenge and it's our job to know how incorporate these raw materials in the different value chains. So yeah, always happy to share about this, and I'm expecting to meet you guys during the EHA conference in Poznan.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, if you fly into Warsaw, let me know.
Of course, I'll let you know.
All right.
Okay, Tom, are you there? It's freeze.
Tom froze.
Yeah.
Well, if Tom's going to be frozen for a minute, I'll just say thank you very much. It was really nice to meet you. It was great to hear your story, and I appreciate you taking time. And well, I hope to see you in a few months for the.
Okay.
For the
Thank you. Thank you guys for this opportunity. Hope you see you soon.
Okay.
Bye, Mike. Bye,
Take
Michael.
care. Thank you so much.
Bye. You too.